Greetings from American Premier University, APU. I'm Dr. Alex Parsinia. I'm professor and chairman of APU. This is a series of lectures dealing with global strategy. So this is the third third lecture in that series. Now, what I like to talk about, initially I talked about the basics of a strategy. Then we talked about the generic strategies on the second video. What I like to talk about today is industry analysis. Okay. Now, people, particularly when they want to get into business, you really need to understand the industry, because depending on the industry you get in and at what phases of growth that industry is, you need to change your strategy. And sometimes when you do industry analysis, maybe you make a decision that I really don't want to get involved in this business, because some businesses are very competitive. The reason they're competitive is because of the structure of the industry. It's not just by chance that this industry is so tough, so cutthroat. And some industries are relatively easy to maneuver. So why? So because, this is the reason, the primary reason you need to do industry analysis. Now, what you want to do is that the beginning point for industry analysis is look at the industry growth cycle. In other words, in each industry go through what we call an S curve. They start as the birth of the industry. It starts at some place. Then it goes through a growth cycle, which means the industry is expanding. Then it matures. That means that it stops growing, and then it starts declining. All industries go through that cycle. So if you want to come into a business, you got to understand whether it's at the growth phase. Is it at the beginning phase, growth phase, maturation phase, or the decline phase? Because sometimes if it's in a decline phase, which means it has become, the industry is actually shrinking and it's becoming extremely competitive, then you may not have much of a chance to start in that business. You want to start in businesses at the maturity, at the growth, at the birth, at the beginning, or at the growth phase. You don't want to get involved in industries where it's at the maturity or the decline phase. So this is the starting point. Because the industry basically gives you the parameters for whether there are a lot of opportunities or a lot of threats. In industries, in businesses where on the industry product life cycle, they're either in the maturity or the decline, they're very competitive. So there's a lot of price wars, and it's a lot difficult to compete on that. So that's the starting point. Now, another model, which is really by Dr., as I said, Professor Michael Porter, what he called the 5 forces model. In other words, you look at 5 forces that shape the industry structure, okay? And I'm going to give you some examples. These 5, and based on how these 5 forces affect each other, basically it determines the structure and the degree of competitiveness within that industry. Now, what are these 5 forces? These 5 forces is, first of all, is the threat of new entrants. Okay, what does it mean, threat of new entrants? There are some businesses which is very easy to enter. You want to start a restaurant, it's relatively easy. It doesn't require a lot of capital. You go and rent a place, remodel it, you're in business. You want to start a boutique, it's very easy to enter. You rent a place, and you start that business. Now, is it a good idea that to get into a business where everybody can get into? No, because if everybody can get into that business, that means those are your competition. Those are your competitors. You actually want to get involved in businesses where the threat of new entrants is very low. Why? Because not everybody can get into that business. A lot of people, they make that mistake. Why? Boutiques have some of the highest rate of fatality. It's a very risky business because anybody can do it.